Hey guys, welcome to Tisha Talks Topics. I am so excited today to have a special guest, to have Rhonda joining us today. Welcome, Rhonda.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's such a pleasure to be here.
I'm so excited to get started in this conversation with you because I initially started this request to have you on the show to talk about one thing, and we will talk about that as well. But I began to read over your bio and I was like,
Mhm.
yes, we have got to talk about
Mhm.
this growing gracefully or gracefully growing in the seasons that you're in. And so before we get started into
Yes.
that meaty topic, can you
hmm
just introduce yourself to those who may not know who you are and some of the things that you've been involved in and that you've done?
Sure. My name is Rhonda Antoine, and I'm an Afro-Caribbean American. And I'm a teacher, I'm an educator, and I'm also an assistant principal over the summer. And I'm really just here to encourage young people, to encourage everyone really, to just make the most out of every season that they're in, whether they're in a single season or their marriage season, just to make the most out of every season. Not only do I hold several leadership positions at work, but I'm also involved in ministry. And I'm just all about just enjoying life and making the most out of every season as we gracefully grow.
That is so cool. That is so cool. So let's start. Well, you didn't highlight some things that I just
Mhm.
think should be highlighted. You hold a doctorate's
Yes, I
degree.
do.
And I love that part where you put in your bio with no student loans.
Yes,
That is amazing all by itself. Can
that's
you
only God.
can you talk
Yes.
about it a little bit?
Sure, no problem. So I went to Temple University in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and I have been blessed with amazing parents who were able to pay for my tuition for my bachelor's degree. And I was an RA, a resident assistant. So because of that, I was able to pay for my room and board, and I also had a work study job, which was able to cover my book. So that's how my bachelor's was covered. And then I taught for 1 year, and within that year of teaching in Philadelphia, I lived in a one-bedroom apartment then. I saved during that 1 year of teaching. And then I decided to move back to New York, back home with my parents. And what I would encourage every young person, every young person is not afforded an opportunity to live at home. But if you can and you're single, stay at home for as long as possible. You may not have all the freedoms that you may like, but it was definitely a blessing to me. So I moved back home to pursue my master's degree. And I didn't have any rent to pay. So because of that, all of my money, and I continued to teach at that time, all of my money went to my master's degree, which was also a blessing. And then I continued to teach, and I was doing a lot of overtime. I worked night school, I worked every summer. And because of that, I was able to pursue my doctorate degree at St. John's University. My master's was also at St. John's. And I also paid that out of pocket. So that too was a blessing because
Girl.
yes, yes, I would definitely say stay home. I think a lot of times once you graduate from college, we want to be grown and we want to move out. And I also was able to experience the living alone season because I lived alone for a year after college, but I also decided to move back because I realized that financially that was the best decision for me if I didn't want to incur any school loans. So it's only been God. I did work hard, but it's only been God's grace that allowed me to say that I have no school loans with a doctorate degree. Um,
Yes.
yeah. So that's basically my story of no loans.
That
Yeah,
is pretty awesome. I also know that you are a real estate investor.
yes,
You have an
I
investment
am.
property. Wait, can we just talk about do you mind sharing your
Sure.
age?
Yes, I'm 31. I'm
Okay, so
31
third,
years
we're
old.
talking about somebody that's 31 years old,
Yes,
no a doctorate's degree, no student loans, and you also have an investment property. Can you tell us a
yes,
little
I
bit
do.
about how you got that or acquired that?
Sure. Sure. I just celebrated my first year anniversary of being a real estate business owner because I have my first investment property, which I'm really excited about. It was very spontaneous. So for all of my 20s, I've been saying I want to buy a house. I want to buy a house, but I don't want to buy a house before I get married because I want my husband and I to decide how many rooms we want because it depends on how many kids we have. And that was always my holdup as to why I didn't buy a house. Looking back, I laugh like,
Crazy, right?
silly. Like, I cannot believe I didn't buy a house because I was waiting for my husband. Most of the time I wasn't in a relationship then, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm still waiting for this husband. And then so I was speaking to an older lady in my church who actually just passed, unfortunately, a few years ago. And she's like, what are you working towards? I'm just like, I don't know, I really want to buy a house, but I'm waiting for, to meet my husband. And she looked at me
She
like I
was
had
like,
five
girl,
heads. Like, what are you saying right now? And I'm like, yeah, I'm waiting for my husband. And to me, that was like, what do you mean? Like, I can't buy a house by myself. Like, how am I going to maintain it? How am I going to afford it? And she's like, and what if your husband comes in 30 years from now? You're not going to wait until 30 years to start your life and to buy investment property? And that's when she really gave me a different perspective. And that's why I really appreciate those who are older passing on wisdom. And I said, you know what? She actually made a valid point. And that's when it really, she definitely put a bug in my ear to just, start looking into investment property. And then my brother became a real estate owner, Douglas Adams. And that is when I was able to really just be connected to the real estate world. And within 2 months, I found, I was
girl.
closing on my house. Yes. The first house that I went into, I was like, this is it. You don't have to show me anything else. This is it. It was the best decision of my life. So I'd really encourage every young woman out there, do not wait for your Boaz. Start your life, embrace the season that you are in. And he'll come, but just develop yourself in every area that you can develop yourself in. And he's right around the corner.
So can we talk about it a little bit? Because there had to be you had to have good credit, you had
Yes.
to have a savings. So there had to be some financial wits about
Mm-hmm.
yourself, right?
Yes.
So how was that for you? Did you grow up in a household where you guys talked about finances a lot, or was this something that you developed along the way?
So I wouldn't say that my parents sat me down and taught me about finances, but I was able to see how they dealt with their finances. So it wasn't something that was directly taught to me. But I've been a saver for as long as I can imagine. I started my first job in high school, and I used to have like a little pouch that I used to save my money in. And that is what really helped me in college. I went into college with the savings, which was a blessing. And I'm very frugal, to be honest. As I would say, I'm fiscally conservative, but I also enjoy life. I traveled a lot around the world. I've been on many different countries traveling. But I would say that I'm just really on top of my finances. I've created a budget. I live by a budget. And I'm not the type of girl, a woman who needs red bottoms, this and Gucci that. Like, I don't need that. I rather invest in real estate property. And it's just about making wise decisions that's going to create generational wealth for you.
Wow. So
Yeah.
what would you say to someone who's looking to invest in real estate property, but
Mm-hmm.
are concerned about the landlord-tenant situation? Because I know
Yes.
I have a lot of investors in my family. I was a homeowner, and I've also had the responsibility of managing some investments because my mom
Mm-hmm.
has some. And I
Mm-hmm.
tell you, I was like, you could do this because if I got to chase after one more person.
Ooh.
So how are you navigating in that space?
So that was one thing that I can say I was very nervous about. I'm like, Lord, you don't understand how much I prayed over that house before I bought it. Like, I literally prayed over the house. Funny story, because the very first tenant that moved in, she completely intentionally destroyed my property. Um, and mind you, when I bought the house, it was newly renovated. And she was trying to move in her couch and her fridge onto the second floor, and she literally chopped off my staircase railing. And when I tell you, I was livid. Livid is an understatement. Like, I couldn't speak about it for months. Everybody would be like, "Oh, how's the house?" and I couldn't speak about it for months. But she promised me, like, I'm so sorry, I'll take care of it. And I just felt so disrespected. Like, how dare you? How dare you? But she kept her word. And she fixed it. And it's so funny because a lot of people were telling me, like, you need to kick her out. Like, this is the first red flag. And I'm just like, you know what? I prayed about it. I have a peace about it. And I just decided to show her grace. Because, as human beings, we all make mistakes. And she was very, very forgiving. Not forgiven. I'm sorry. She was very, very sympathetic, and apologetic.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to show her grace, and now we have a great relationship. She's one of my favorite tenants. So she did start off on a really bad note, but I think it's just all about showing grace. And at the end of the day, it's a business, so it's about creating win-win situations for you. So and for your tenant. So I at that point felt like I couldn't trust her, so I put up security cameras. I'm like, I need to see your every move because you will not destroy my property again.
I need evidence.
First and last, yes. I was not playing, but it's been really good. I have no complaints. My first 4 tenants, they take care of the yard, they take care of the trash disposal, shoveling, cutting the grass. Like, I've been blessed with amazing tenants. So
Wow.
it's
So
been
you have a 4-family property?
it's
It's
3 family.
3-family. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. So and so even being in that space where I kind of had like landlord responsibilities, I've also been in the space where I have been a tenant,
Yes.
and I know how, like, I was a good tenant. So you kind of weigh, it's like, you want to operate in that gray space. And then as a landlord, you also kind of have responsibilities. And so
Yes.
I just think I'm glad that you
Mhm.
have been able to find a really good balance and to
Yes.
be able to move in that space and grace.
Mhm.
And so as we're transitioning from grace to grace,
Mhm.
you also were a foster mom.
Yes, I was.
Yes. So how did that happen?
Oh, life-changing experience. Okay, so I kept in contact with one of my former students. I taught her several years ago. And I, just out of respect for my foster daughter, and the family, I'm not going to share too much.
Mhm.
But, my former student called me and she's like, I'm about to, I have an emergency situation. So then that night, once I realized that they were still stuck, I decided to go over there and just make sure everything was okay. And unfortunately, ACS had to pick up the little girl she was 6 at the time. The little girl that night. And it was the most heartbreaking situation for me. Um, and I said, oh my goodness, like, this can't be. It brought me to tears. So then the next day I received a phone call from ACS saying that the family's request, is asking for me to show up to court for family court. Went to family court. And basically judge was saying that they won't release her to any family members, and the family listed me as a resource, so the only person that she will be able to go to is me. I
He's like,
literally
okay.
I literally went to my church. Thankfully my church was like 5 minutes away, and I was like, I need to speak to somebody. Like, I don't know what I'm about to do. Like, what do you mean like, otherwise she's gonna go to a stranger. So I'm just like, oh goodness. Like, and at this time, I'm in my last year of my doctorate program. I just got out of, and in my opinion, it was just like at a really bad time. And I was in my second year of my doctorate program, and I just got out of like a really bad breakup situation. So I just needed some time to heal myself.
Mhm.
Um, and I went to my church, and I spoke to a couple of people, and when I tell you I was in tears, bawling, like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. Like, Lord, why me? And then I finally had peace about it. I'm just like, you know what? It's okay. Like, I'll work it out. God wouldn't put me in this situation if this is not what He didn't mean for my life. And although was not planned at all, He knows what's best for me. And if this is in His will, I'm sure that it's gonna work out. So I went back to court, and they said tomorrow she's gonna be at my house. Literally the
Wow.
next day she was at my house, and I'm just like, oh.
Wow.
But let me tell you, I really thought I was trying to be a blessing to her, but she was a blessing to me.
Wow.
Just to see how resilient she was. She didn't know me at all, never met me before. And just to see like how you can just be picked up from your mom's house and then brought to a stranger's house. And you'd have thought that she was like nothing happened,
Mm-hmm.
and she really helped me through my healing process after that breakup. She really taught me how to humble myself and to ask for help when I needed. So I wouldn't be able to even tell about this victory story if it wasn't for the help of my village, my parents, my family, my friends, who not only helped me emotionally and but sometimes they were literally physically there picking her up for me because I was in class. So I cannot say this would not have been possible without my village and without God. And just being obedient to him. When he speaks, listen. Because it was really he was just looking out for me. And to be honest, we both needed each other. We were both a blessing to each other. To be honest, I think she helped me more than I helped her. As
Oh.
crazy as it may sound. So that's my
Mm-hmm.
little girl. I love her. Love her. It's definitely part of my journey that I'm very grateful for.
Wow. That's awesome. That's
Yes,
awesome.
thank you.
So, as we are talking, all of these things that you've been able to accomplish, that you've been able to experience and do,
Hmm.
has been from a single space,
Yes,
right? And I
yes.
know you talk about seasons. So, I have two questions for you.
Hmm.
If you can kind of define what a season is for you, and then if you can really talk about, I guess, like your growth and this process being a single person and what that entire season has kind of looked like to you and has taught you, and
Hmm.
you could just roll off of that.
Okay. So what the seasons mean to me, a season is a very temporary situation. Um, but in order to move from one season to another, you have to learn from it. You have to grow from it. And I don't think that God is going to move us from one season to another until that final piece happens. My single season, what has been a roller coaster to say the least. Just in and out of different relationships that I know that I had no business being part of. um, but what I can say is that I regret I regret none of them, because in every relationship that I was in, it was a lesson to be learned. Whether it was don't rush into a relationship before you even get to like be friends with them. You don't even know who he is. To just because he's saved, that doesn't mean that he's for you. Like
Can you
you guys
say
can
that again? Can you
just
can you
because
repeat
yes.
those last two?
Yes, just because he's saved, that doesn't mean that he's for you. You guys can still be unequally yoked in many different areas of life. And that's what my last relationship taught me. So just I just been in some crazy situations in terms of my relationships, but I'm so grateful for them. And with each heartbreak and with each traumatic experience that I had, it just pushed me, and it motivated me to just really establish me who I am as a person, self-love, self-growth. I was part of many different workshops and conferences, just so that I can grow, not only mentally, emotionally, but also spiritually. Um, so once I came to a place where I felt like um, I needed to be dating again, because I did realize I needed to put my life on pause and not date at all. I was intentionally single at one point. And I did a lot of therapy. Oh, I did so many things just to grow as an individual and just to love who I am. But once I realized that I was whole, then that's when I was intentional about dating. And that's when dating looked very different for me. I'm not dating you just because you're saved, because it's going to take a lot more than just being saved. I'm not dating you because you look good. Like I'm not dating you because you have an education. You have to be um, well-rounded, and you have to be. I need to take the time to get to know you. We need to build a friendship first. And that's some of the things that I can definitely say that I learned. Just really embracing my single season on a whole, and just developing in every area, building some strong friendships, some girlfriends. I'm traveling the world. Just there's so much to do. Learning how to cook. just there's just so many different things that you can do, just to keep growing as a single person.
I love in your bio, you mentioned that you would rather focus on the journey and the process rather than the final product.
Mm-hmm.
I think I love that. How has, you've talked about some things that you learned through this journey, but
Yeah.
have you come to a place where you've figured out how to enjoy it? Like how to enjoy whatever season you find yourself in?
Yes. So I've made many mistakes along the way. But I realized that in order for me to enjoy my season, I have to first show myself grace, because God is going to continuously show me grace. So why am I so hard on myself? Um, I think a lot of people come to me like, Rhonda, like, you're so established now, you're so successful. Like, what did you do? How did you get here? I'm just like, I'm still growing. I'm still growing. It's still more. I have not met. I'm not at my final destination yet. This is not the final product. Um, but what I can say is that the process to get here was definitely a lot of work. I'll never forget, um, in 2018, when I had my foster daughter and I was, in doctorate school and getting over the breakup. I was committed to waking up at 5:30, 5 o'clock every morning, and just spending those wee hours of the morning with God, and just crying out to God every single morning. And I strongly believe that God heard those prayers, because I'm in the happiest place of my life right now, and I'm now reaping the benefits of my early morning sacrifices. And I'm not a morning person at all, at all. So God really saw my sacrifice. And I also believe in, throughout your process, making sure that you have an accountability partner, and making sure you don't go through this process by yourself, because it can be very hard to do it like that. But just always remember, we're never at our final destination. We always have more room to grow, and we'll always keep making mistakes, and maybe even having some regrets. Even though you probably shouldn't have any regrets, but just showing grace to yourself, because God will always show grace to you.
Hmm. I love it. I love the accountability part. I definitely love the giving yourself grace, because I think
Hmm.
sometimes we can just beat ourselves up so much
Hmm.
about the mistakes that we make and feeling
Yeah.
like they're final.
Hmm.
And I wrote this book called Second Chances, and it talked about, like, oh my gosh, the countless mistakes that
Yes.
I made along the way, but how those
Hmm.
mistakes really don't have to define who you are. It doesn't have to define your
Hmm.
destiny. At any point in time, you are able to redefine yourself,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And so
Absolutely.
I love that. I love that. Another thing that I always tell everyone is that our life experiences, I believe that they're here to do like three things. And
Hmm.
one is either to like show or reveal something to us that we didn't
Yes.
either know about ourselves or
Yes.
we didn't know about the people we are surrounding ourselves with. Or to teach us, to be like a
Hmm.
knowledge dropping opportunity, right? For us to
Hmm.
increase in our understanding of things,
Yes.
and then to bless us, right? To
Hmm.
propel us to that next season or that next place or that
Yes.
next stage of life. So
Hmm.
I know that you've talked a lot about self development. I'm all for it. I'm all for self
Hmm.
development and self assessing and knowing who you are, right?
Absolutely. 100%. Yes. You have to know who you are first before you even think about joining your life with somebody else.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Do
very
you think
important.
that the self-development and the self-awareness has helped you deal with maybe any type of loneliness that may come along with being in the single season? Because I know that's a real, challenge.
Yes, it is a major challenge. I've had many nights crying, like, Lord, oh my goodness. Once I hit 30, I was like, oh Lord, I'm 30.
Where is he?
um, yes. um, but I would say that it definitely helped with my loneliness, the feelings of being lonely. But I can definitely say what the number one thing that helped was growing with God, growing in my faith, and realizing that He will never leave me nor forsake me, and He is with me at all times. So yes, self-development did help. But the number one thing that helps, I would say, is growing my faith in God and just taking that one-on-one time to read the word, to speak to him, and to build community and godly community. So I would definitely say those are some things that would help, that helped with my loneliness.
Cool, 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 cool.
Yeah.
I love it. So, before, and I keep trying this new
Sorry.
virtual background. Um, I wanted to also ask you, I guess, really quickly about,
Mhm.
you mentioned building generational wealth, right? I
Mhm.
think a
Yeah.
lot of people um, are not focused on building legacy,
Mhm.
for them, especially as a single person, right?
Yes.
So if you don't have children, you don't have a spouse, then it's kind of like, oh, I'm just going to do what I'm going to do. But where did you, get the concept or the motivation, I should say, to
Mhm.
focus on generational wealth?
So I would say that I knew I was gonna get married. Like I knew that God made me to be a wife. So it was definitely not something that I wanted to rush into. I think rush into marriage is the worst thing that anyone can do. Um, However, I'm sorry. What was the
That's
question?
okay. That's okay. I can attest to it. Rushing into a
I'm
marriage
sorry.
is not the
Generational
best thing.
wealth. Generational wealth. I was like, wait, what was I going with that again? Okay. Um, but even though I wasn't married and I was still single, maybe just dating around, sometimes single, I knew that I was gonna get married one day and I knew that I wanted to have a family one day. So I said, you know what? My husband's not here yet, but I'm gonna prepare for when he is here.
Mhm.
So okay, he's not here yet. Why can't I buy a house? He's not here yet. Why can't I spend my money wisely and invest in my education? Um, he's not here yet, but why can't I cook? So that I can show my child how to cook. Um, so those are just, I think more so, not short term, but more so long term.
Mhm.
Where do I plan on being in the next 10 years, 15 years? And what can I do to prepare so that when I'm there, I can be successful in those seasons?
Wow. What advice would you give to someone in I guess like maybe a challenging season of life? What advice would you give to them as to how they can
Um,
navigate it?
Sure. I would say accountability. Pray about who can be your accountability partner. Um, and there's no true genuine accountability if the person can't be honest with you about where you are and what you need to do. Sometimes when you have an accountability partner, you take offense when they say, oh, you should do this, like this wasn't a good move. But really truly having somebody who can hold you accountable, and you being open to what they have to say. I would definitely say being connected to, I'm not even going to say a church, I'm going to say a family, a godly family, and just building a village, building a community that can hold you up and lift you up, but also spending that one-on-one time with God, because he is the number one sustainer, who will lift you up. I would say that during those times when I was going through, I read a lot of books. I read Purpose Driven Life. I read Battlefields of the Mind.
Excellent
Um,
book.
yes, oh, life changing book. Life
Yes.
changing. I'm actually reading that book for a second time.
Yeah.
Now, life changing books. So just being mindful about who you have around you and how you spend your time. Taking control of your mind. A lot of times we worry a lot, and our mind will easily go into the negative. Just being very intentional about your thoughts throughout the day, so that you can just pick yourself up and just remembering that this is a season, but it's a temporary season. And until you grow from that season and learn from that season, you will stay stuck in that same place.
Mm-hmm. Very good advice.
Sure.
Uh, One thing that I always think about when we talk about mindsets is that, what you think on becomes what you feel, and then what you
Mm-hmm.
feel becomes how you behave, and then how you
Yes.
behave becomes who you are and like what you
Mm-hmm.
do. And so having the right mindset, surrounding yourself around people who are like-minded, pouring the right things into
Yes.
yourself is so
Yes.
important, I think, in just how you're able to show up, in this
Yeah.
world. And so I think you
Yeah.
are a great example of
Oh,
that.
thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
I think you are a great example of
Thank
that. Well,
you.
I want to thank you for sharing your
No
story
problem.
and just sharing your wealth of experience and knowledge and your ability to step outside of
Hmm.
your comfort zones,
Yes. Thank
and
you.
to step outside and just put action to those things and own them and own who you've been
Hmm.
called to be in the season that you're in. So
Thank
is there
you.
anything else that you would like to leave with maybe someone who's listening and just have been encouraged and inspired by your
Hmm.
journey so far?
I would just say to trust God. He will never leave you. He will never forsake you. He understands that there may be times where you may lack faith, but those are the times where you need to really, really spend time with Him. Those are the times where you really need to just put everything aside and just talk to Him and read His Word. Um, and remember that you should always show yourself grace. He is showing you grace. So as we grow and as we go through every season in life, He got you. He has you. And He will wrap you in His arms if you allow Him to. Oh, yeah.
Awesome,
Mhm.
awesome, awesome, awesome. So let us know, I guess let everybody know if they're
Mhm.
interested in maybe reaching out to you, following up on maybe some questions that they might have about like real estate and being
Yes.
a landlord and maybe even possibly fostering a child, how they
Mhm.
can reach you, the best way for them to.
Sure. My Instagram is gracefully_locked. That's GRACEFULLY_LOCD.
LCD. Cool. And
Yes.
her locks are awesome, y'all. So if
Yeah.
you're listening to the to the podcast, you can't see, but you got to go to her Instagram page and check out her do. She has an awesome. Well, I'm gonna post this video at some point, but she has
Okay. Yeah.
awesome rap and style. I love it.
Thank you. I
It's
appreciate
super eclectic. So I just want to thank you, Rhonda, for coming on and sharing of your journey. I
it.
think it's so important for us as sisters to know what each other has experienced
Yes.
and that we've made it through,
Yes.
right? That we've
Yes.
made it through and
Absolutely.
just pave the way for the next person coming
Yes.
along. So I have thoroughly enjoyed speaking with you.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for this platform. I appreciate you. And I'm excited to be here.
Do you have anything coming up? What's next on your journey? Do you have anything exciting that
Oh
you're
Lord.
working on?
What's next? Well, I am trying to learn how to play the piano. It's always been a life goal of mine. So since I'm in quarantine right now, I'm like, you know what? Let me, try this thing out. So definitely that. I'm also focusing on just being healthier. I'm trying to transition into the health into the vegan lifestyle.
Okay.
So that's one thing that I'm working on. I can't say that I'm fully there yet, but I am working on it. So those are the two things that I can say that I'm definitely focused on, and just growing spiritually. Just reading different books. As I said, I'm reading Purpose Driven Life again. So that's about it. That's about it.
I absolutely love this conversation. I know we're about to end. I keep saying that, but
It's okay.
I love the way that you have embraced your growth, right? And you've
Hmm.
talked about thus far on this conversation, you've talked about your financial growth and how you embrace
Yes.
that. You've talked about your investment in branching out. You talked
Hmm.
about building legacy. Now you're talking about health. You've talked about
Yes.
your mental growth, right?
Hmm.
Therapy and being in a good
Hmm.
space and so
Yes.
I love that. I think that is so important. We're only given one life. And so
Yes.
how are we going to live it? Right? What are
Hmm.
we going to do?
Hmm.
And so thank you.
No
Thank you,
problem. Thank
Rhonda, for being a
you.
part of
Thank
this
you.
podcast.
Thank you.